Hey, thank you for attending this HelpSystems and IntelliMagic seminar, which, as you can see on the screen, is predict storage and compute before they impact your business. This is 30 minutes, and we may have time for questions at the end, but I encourage you, please, to put any questions that you have in the chat window. And if we don't answer them during the seminar, then we will obviously get back to you via email after the seminar. So just to talk about our two presenters today, and one of them being me. So we'll start off with Brett. Brett Allison is the Director of Technical Services in IntelliMagic. Prior to joining IntelliMagic in 2010, he spent his career in various technical and leadership roles focused on infrastructure and application performance and scalability. At IntelliMagic, he leads the technical service team in the Americas that provide pre-sales and post-sales activities and professional services, including IntelliMagic software as a service, offerings, and consulting. He delights in helping our customers, or IntelliMagic's customers, realize value from using IntelliMagic solutions to gain operational efficiencies and reduce risk in their infrastructures. Working with customers and development to drive innovation within the IntelliMagic solutions invigorates him. He is passionate about serving IntelliMagic customers and employees well, and is constantly looking for ways to improve in the execution and delivery of the IntelliMagic technical services. So that's Brett. He'll be coming along to speak to you in a minute. As for me, my name's Bob Tors. I'm a Senior Solutions Specialist for HelpSystems. I've been working in mostly compute capacity management for over 20 years, and 12 years of that has been at HelpSystems. I am convinced that capacity management is now more relevant than ever, despite all the new technology, and especially in today's hybrid IT world. So with that said, just a quick agenda. So I'll be doing the introduction and also coming back after that with the Vityl capacity management compute solution and the joint solution, and Brett will be doing the IntelliMagic SAN and storage solution after the introduction. So let's go straight into the introduction. We've introduced the people. Let's briefly introduce the customers. So some of you may know us as TeamQuest. We're now part of HelpSystems, have been for the last 3 years, and we specialize in compute and capacity performance management, and that's all we've ever done. And it means keeping up with the latest technology and so on. IntelliMagic, they specialize in storage performance and capacity management, and they're a long-time partner of ours. So obviously TeamQuest and now HelpSystems, and you know, we look at having joint solutions for both storage and compute. And in terms of innovation, I briefly mentioned the technology and how technology moves on. And both companies have many years of experience in their respective fields, basically keeping up with that technology. If we think how much storage and compute has moved on, it's very important to keep up with that technology. And both of our customers, so both companies, our customers tell us that capacity and performance management for compute and storage are equally important. I know that Brett will go out and he will hear people who want server and service performance and capacity management, and I hear the same thing about storage. So one of the reasons that we're running this seminar is we both understand the importance of combining both solutions. So with that said, I'll hand over to Brett, who will talk to you about the storage solution, and then I'll be back in a few slides time to talk about our solution and what we're going to be doing jointly. So over to you, Brett.
All right, thanks, Bob. I assume you can hear me okay.
Yes.
So what I wanted to just kind of talk about is just the fact that there's just a continuous flood of storage information. There's also a continuous flood of server information, just across the fabric, across the infrastructure, the servers, the storage, the connectivity. There's just a ton of information. There's lots of different vendors in most larger shops. There's lots of types of storage. In most shops nowadays, there's at least 2 data centers, if not just for data availability. And then there's infrastructure changes. The infrastructure tends to change every couple years, depending on management, depending on backgrounds of teams, and depending on what's going on in the market. But there's lots of changes. And then there's big changes like CRM changes and different kinds of application changes. So the environment over time has this sort of just mix of things in it, and this creates some complexity in terms of management. So what do? Do you set up more monitors, another monitor for each solution? Well, that actually would require additional people to look at those things. So that's really not the best way. Also, you don't want to have to manually pull together data. There are some things going on in the market where there's lots of tools that are able to kind of gather that and gather data from different components, and that's helpful, but it still requires that you kind of clean the data and normalize it, and you don't want to have to do that manually. It's just too much work, and you really can't. No one can take the time to manually study it and identify risks in the environment. It's just there's several things going on. There's complexity and scale, and on the flip side of it, there's really tight. Everyone's spread thin. There's not enough people to do everything that needs to be done. So really, the answer is not hiring more people. That management is not going to go for that. It's not neglecting the business critical metrics and signals that you're getting from the infrastructure. It's really to use artificial intelligence software based to automate the infrastructure analysis. So IntelliMagic and Vision and Vityl, what we're talking about is allowing the humans to focus on using insights instead of generating them. So what we want to do is we want to use some really sophisticated approaches to analyzing the data to bring to the surface those risks that are going on in the environment, and to allow for planning and all kinds of other things. So what we're going to do in the next few slides is talk about a couple of things that we do in that space to help. I mean, obviously, there's different kinds of activities that happen in the performance and capacity management space. In terms of performance monitoring, troubleshooting, and drill down, those things are going to happen. So this is an example of just a simple line chart showing the throughput for your top 30 VMs in an environment. And what you can do here in the user interface is simply click on one of your VMs that you're concerned about, and in one click, drill down to the associated data store. And in another click, you can drill down to the back end. The back end supporting LUN. So the advantage of this is that you have the server data, IO data, and the storage data, and you have that link. So in the interface, you're just literally in a couple clicks seeing the back end performance. Oops. So this is going down, one more mouse click, and now I'm looking at the performance of that particular VM's data store. So just one example of how the solution allows you to do really end-to-end performance analysis with just a couple mouse clicks, and it doesn't require the VMware guys to normalize the data for the storage guys. it really allows visibility from the front end into the back end without requiring a lot of context on the storage side for VM guys. Another thing that we provide in the solution are key performance indicators. Really, what this is showing in this view is a dashboard that has the key performance indicators across the top, the storage arrays along the y-axis, and the metaphor here is a kind of a stoplight metaphor. Green is good, and yellow is a warning, and red is bad. The fact that the dashboard has an outline that is red indicates that there is some risk in this environment, and so you can simply click on the risk, and you can see, you can go down to the next level where you'll see a series of the charts, including the key performance indicators and likely some additional charts. And those are going to be highlighted with colors to show the health. You'll notice in the background, there's some variable colors for the response time indicators, and those are indicating that the thresholds are dynamic based on the actual workload. There's other things in this view that are a little bit subtle, but behind the scenes going on. The throughput ratings are based on the capabilities of the storage systems and the configuration of the storage system. So in this really dense view, you're getting a lot of interpretation about what is good and what is bad for this particular configuration and workload. And from here, you can drill down to other things. If it's, you can drill down to the storage groups or the masking views or the physical clusters that are on this this array in this case. So this is just a quick summary of how we use the built-in knowledge and expertise about what's good or what's bad to allow the user to rely on the insights as opposed to relying on a bunch of just plain charts. Another thing I wanted to show was just awareness. So it's good to be able to see end-to-end from your virtual machine through your ESX host to the logical switches and the associated storage host adapters and volumes, to be able to see end-to-end from one end of the IO stack through all the way through to the other end allows you to identify zoning and masking things, and you can quickly visualize your connectivity. So a VMware person that's maybe not an expert on how storage is configured can simply look at this view for any of their hosts and see the connectivity. And then it becomes more valuable for an expert, SAN expert, that can look at this and say, yeah, there's something wrong here. I've got 3 ports on one side of the fabric and 4 on the other. And then you can drill down on any of the ports and see if there's any kind of performance issues or see if the traffic is balanced or whatnot. So these are just a few examples of how we tie the end-to-end connectivity and performance from the VMs all the way through to the storage. And the last thing I wanted to mention was just the ability to do planning and forecasting. This is a chart that has, it's a line chart with 4 lines. The important line here is a time until running out in days, and that's based on the primary y-axis. And what this does is this shows as we increase our space consumption, the number of days until we run out is going to decrease, but over time, as we just have organic growth, the number of days until we run out will increase over time to a point. So in this case, it's saying there's about 220 days left until this particular pool or array runs out of storage. So this is an example of how we include storage space capacity forecasting within the solution. And Bob, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Brett. what you start to see is when I go through my slides is the kind of synergy that we have between the two companies, because all the things that Brett was saying about how things have moved on to a point where people want insight from the data rather than just showing a chart that's showing something that you have to interpret. That's very much the way we're seeing things in the compute world, and it's very much how we've designed our product. So we call our product Vityl Capacity Management, and it consists of several capabilities, and I'll come back to this, what I call this workflow screen later on when I show you how we will combine the two sets of products and disciplines together. But as with Brett, it's all important, the data, and we can get the data from many different places. But it's not, the data has to be there, it's a foundation, but it's what you do with the data that's important. And so again, just like with Brett, where he has some awareness capabilities on storage, we do the same thing on the server or compute side, and we have our own key performance indicators that look at health and risk. And health is looking at problems that have happened in the last 24 hours, and risk is looking at problems that will happen in the next 6 months. And the way we do that is quite clever. We're not just using thresholds, we're actually using analytics to allow us to measure the impact of queuing on the various components. So when we say that something's unhealthy, it means that there's too much queuing, and we'll tell you what components that is, and we'll do it by service and servers as well. So key performance indicators is where we start and where we let you know where the problems are so that you don't have to do it. And then if it's a health problem, so in other words, if it's happened in the last 24 hours, we take you to performance monitor, and I've got a small slide with a couple of screenshots on that. If it's a risk problem, it's going to happen in the next 6 months, then we take you to something called capacity plans that allows you to look at how you can resolve the risk, and what you can do, maybe upgrading, maybe migrating, or whether you have a specific what if scenario, a plan, so something like Black Friday or a high transaction day, or you're going to be growing 20% over the next year. You can actually set that up in a nice timeline based plan, which again I'll show you a screenshot of, and we'll be able to tell you what you need to do in order to get over those hurdles. And then finally, we have something called automated analytics that really allows you to do custom dashboards and reporting, and allows you to automate a lot of the reports and things like efficiency. So can I return some of my VMs to a particular pool and then repurpose them, CPUs to the pool and repurpose them, and things like that. And I'll show you a couple of screenshots on that. But that's our basic philosophy, and you'll notice it's very similar to what Brett has gone through with his storage product. So key performance indicators, that's the awareness part. As I said, it's health and risk. And it allows you to identify literally thousands of systems to identify those that need attention. And we can do it by service as well. So you may have 20 systems in a particular service. We can group them together and report just on that service or your high important services, and so on. And we provide these RAG metrics. So you can see here that if it's unhealthy, we give you a nice little chart to say when it was unhealthy over the last 24 hours. And all of that is a rolling 24 hours. So it's basically running this every hour and showing you what has changed. And as I said, what it allows you to do is, first of all, aggregate the systems into services or line of business or however it is you report at your company. And we also, as I say, the algorithms behind the scenes are not just simple thresholds. We're using algorithms that calculate the impact of queuing on this. So you can see the critical resource for the unhealthy one at the top there is IO, which means that there's a lot of queuing on one or more disks. And you can see that the at risk, in other words, the risk projection for the next 6 months, tells you that your critical resource is CPU, and it's more or less critical right now. And you can see the one below that is actually predicting that there'll be a risky file system within the next 6 months. Okay, and in fact, it tells you 108 days time. So this is really going through, trawling the data and doing what you would normally do, perhaps manually. And so having found that there's a health problem, we then allow you to go into our performance monitor, and that allows you to see, first of all, what's causing the problem, and you'll know from the key performance indicators it's CPU or IO, and it will allow you to drill down and see what processes are causing the problem. And if it's high CPU, you can sort them. If it's high IO, you can sort them. And you can see not only what the process is that's causing the problem, but also the user ID or the login, depending on the platform you're looking at. So you can actually trace it back to a person. And you can do all of that very easily. So we have our collectors, or we can link to other third-party data, which allows us in both cases to do real-time data streaming. Drill down not just to processes, but we can also look at containers from Docker. And it's completely data agnostic. So as I say, we can either use the data that we collect, or we can use third-party data as well. And that's actually the same for all of the capabilities that I'm describing in this section. Everything is actually data agnostic, including the key performance indicators. So if you have a large database of data that you already have, performance data, then we can use that as well. So capacity plans, that's another key capability that we have. We've designed it to be easy to use. So if you've never done capacity planning before, we've designed it so that it's intuitive to use, so that you can see on the left-hand side there's a timeline that basically tells you all the things that you've done, any growth that you have, and so on. And then the results again come out as these RAG reports that tells you when you can expect to see a problem, and if you actually drill down into the details, what those problems will be. And then we allow you to resolve the problem by perhaps you can see over here, moving the virtual machines to a public cloud, or moving or changing some of the VMware metrics and so like the shares and the virtual CPUs. So we allow you to model that, and the great thing about this is you don't have to spend any money to do it. If you think about what you might do to resolve something, you might go out and buy a new piece of hardware, and then find that that doesn't work, and or you've actually bought too much hardware, and we see a lot of that. So this allows you to do all of your what ifs without actually spending any money, come up with a nice accurate forecast on a timeline that can be easily understood, and then obviously you can procure or change what you need. So because it uses queuing theory, it's very accurate. We provide actionable advice, and as I said, it's easy to use. The final thing that we do is automated analytics, and this is where we bring all the different sources of data together, including IntelliMagic. So we can do management dashboards like the one you see here, or we can do individual dashboards. It's multi-tenanted, so all of the people who log in can only see the reports that you want them to see. Everything you see is modular and tailorable. The content can be produced and scheduled automatically, and like everything else that I've been speaking about, it's data agnostic. And this is the first place where we start to combine IntelliMagic and HelpSystems, because what it means by bringing their data in to automated analytics, we can start to show end-to-end storage, show back and charge back. In other words, we can put a cost to both the compute and the storage sides. We can do end-to-end computing on memory and IO, and show how this spreads between storage and compute. And we can do departmental and business unit reporting. So we can group everything by service, both on the compute side and also on the storage side as well. So it's a very powerful solution when we bring it all together. And the actual joint workflow, so if you remember the workflow slide that I showed you before, troubleshooting, awareness, planning, and resolution. By combining the data with HelpSystems and IntelliMagic and combining the analytics, what it allows us to do, we both have our own key performance indicators, and on the storage side, we can jump to either IntelliMagic Vision to look at the real-time storage, or Vision as well to look at the forecasting. So in other words, if it's health, we go to Vision to look at the real-time, do some drill down just to do troubleshooting. And if it's risk, we look at Vision to do some forecasting on the storage. And the same thing as you saw with our two capabilities. So we can do the same thing with key performance indicators going to our performance monitor or going to capacity plans. So it's basically where it makes sense, using the relevant products to do the troubleshooting and the planning, but where it makes sense to join up, then we bring it all together in automated analytics. So that allows us to do this custom content to produce, combine end-to-end reports and efficiency reporting as well. So actually bringing the two products together, having the same philosophy, means that we have a lot of synergy, and it means that what you'll get at the end is something that's useful for both storage and compute. So to summarize what we achieved together, we combine our data. So IntelliMagic has its own storage data that it gets from all the different SANs that are around on the market now. We do the same thing on platforms and cloud and so on. We combine that data together. It means that we can come up with this health, risk, and efficiency for both compute and storage in one place. So in other words, you'll see it in the automated analytics portal. It also allows us to combine everything at a service level as well. And where we need to go back to our own products, because it's where we have each company has its own expertise, the troubleshooting and resolution allows us via a defined workflow to go back to the relevant parts of both the storage product, which is IntelliMagic Vision, and our product, which is Vityl capacity management. So it's a very powerful solution that brings together what we see as the most two important things on the market. It's what we hear most about, that people want to combine. They want to see compute and storage together. So that's all we have for this seminar. Now, we are at the 30-minute mark. I'm not sure whether there's been any questions, but I think what we will do, if you do have any questions, please do email us and let us know what the questions are. I haven't seen any questions in the chat window, so please do let us know if you have any questions, and we can answer them at another time. I'd like to thank Brett for his time, and hopefully you found that this is a very viable solution. So thank you very much for attending. There is a recording of this, so if you want to revisit it, please do. You will get sent the recording automatically, and indeed anyone who's registered and hasn't been able to attend will also get the recording as well. So thank you very much, and we will end it there.